Hi everyone, it's Gavin here from Futurama, your go-to retailer for all things optics and outdoors. Today we're going to be diving into the world of Nikon binoculars. So in front of me here I've got 5 top-notch options from the Prostaff and the Monarch range, and we'll be going into a bit of a comparison between the models and obviously the different magnifications in each. Before we get into the video, I would just like to give a big thank you to Premium Brands, which are of course the importers of Nikon in South Africa, for sponsoring this video and also providing the camera, the Nikon Z30, that we are going to be shooting part of this video on today. Okay, so let's get into some of the options. So we've got the Prostaff P3, the P7, another P3 here, but just the 10x42, and then the Monarch 8x42 and the Monarch 10x42. These are the Monarch 5s, just for reference. I'm going to start it off with the more compact binos, right? So this is the 8x30 Prostaff P3. These are great for people that want a nice, compact and lightweight bino. So the rubber armor on here not only provides shock resistance, but also a nice, comfortable grip. And then of course, the whole Prostaff range is waterproof and fog-free, thanks to a combination of O-rings and a nitrogen gas purging. Moving on to the P7, you'll see there's some minor cosmetic changes on the outside. It's mostly on the internals in terms of the optical system where there's a real difference. Moving on, another P3, identical to that one, just the larger form factor. Then we've got the Monarch 5s, which are in a bit of a different class. Obviously, you've got your blacked out brand and model designation. It's just a bit of a more sleek, stylish bino that's very well balanced and feels very good in hand. So those are the options. Before we get into the comparisons and the differences between them, let's just go over some basics first of all. So we'll start with magnification. And a lot of people don't realize how important magnification is in binos. It can make or break your experience, right? So if you're someone who's out there in the early morning or late afternoon, you might not want a higher magnification bino, and that comes down to your exit pupil, which we'll get into later. But a lot of people have this misunderstanding that if you've got a 8x42 and a 10x42, you should just go for the larger magnification. And let's go over why that might not always be the best option, right? Let's say, for example, it's going to be a long observation session. You need to remember that 10x42 means you're going to get an item or object at 1,000 meters. It's going to have a apparent view of being at 100 meters. So that's what that magnification is doing. But what it also does is amplifies any sort of, shake or vibration. So you could imagine standing for an extended period of time, having this bino up at eye level, you're going to have some muscle fatigue. And once that starts happening and you have even just the tiniest of shake, that object is way out, or that, thing you're looking at is way out. It's just going to magnify, amplify that shake even more, and it might become a bit uncomfortable at a distance. So that's one of the downsides of a high magnification. Obviously the rest of it is all benefits in terms of being able to see objects at a further distance. So after that, let's move into optical systems. The Prostaff P3, which is this one over here, does have a very, very nice coating. It's got about 3 or 5 layers depending on the prisms. So that's going to give you increased light transmission and obviously a higher clarity. So moving on to the P7, you'll get more coatings on more surfaces, giving you even more clarity. And then you move on to the Monarch 5s, and these are in a class of their own altogether. And that's thanks to extra low dispersion, or ED glass, which counters, of course, chromatic aberrations, right? And in fact, you also get much nicer coatings on these, which is going to increase light transmission even further from the Prostaff range, giving you better color fidelity and higher resolution overall, right? So optical systems, they aren't all the same. They might look the same, but the performance does differ in, range to range. Okay, so next, let's just get into exit pupil, which we briefly touched on before, what that means and what it is. So for the example, I'm going to use the Monarch M5. This is the 8x42, right? So the exit pupil of these binos would be, as an example, 5.3 millimeters. And you get that by dividing the aperture at the front by the magnification, right? So 42 divided by 8 is going to be 5.3. So that's the size. If you hold the bino about 30 centimeters from your face, you'll see a circle here. That's going to be the diameter of that circle in the bino. It's 5.3 mils. So what exit pupil refers to is your pupils in your actual eyes, right, can dilate to a maximum size. And if this exit pupil is larger than that, if you look out onto a scene, the image through the bino will be brighter than with the naked eye. So you want to get as close to that as possible if you want to do late evening or early morning viewings, right, when it's a low light. So take, for example, a 10 by 42 option, right, this Prostaff P3 10 by 42. That's going to give you an exit pupil of only around 4.2 mils. So it's much lower. It's not going to have as good low light performance as this model right here. Not just because of the coatings, but because of the physical limitation of a 10 times magnification versus an 8 times magnification in terms of that exit pupil that gets calculated at the back there. So all that needs to be taken into account, right? And then finally, we can move on to lens coatings. And this is probably one of the most important parts when it comes to a bino. So the lens coatings, in terms of how many layers are applied, on which surfaces, is it just lenses, is it on the prisms as well? You know, and that is what happens when you move up, right? The higher up you go in the models, the more coatings you're getting on more surfaces. So you can get your surface to air, which is the front of your lenses, right? And then you get your internals, including your prisms and so on and so forth. The more coatings you have, and the more layers you have, the more light transmission you're going to have, and the brighter image you're going to have coming out the back of that bino. So all of that is very important to remember when choosing not just between the Nikon models and lineups, but any bino out there. So let's get into a comparison of the models themselves. Okay, so let's compare them side by side, the models we have here today. So these both are the P3, right? So these are a nice, compact, lightweight option, offering, you know, all the basics you want from a bino in terms of being waterproof, it's fog-free, it's got that rubber armor. It's going to give you that shock resistance and a nice feel to the bino, and all that at a great price point. Then you move to the P7 as an example. That's going to give you increased optical performance as well as a bit of a wider field of view than its counterpart in the P3. But then on the other hand, or the other side of the spectrum, you're going to get top tier performance from something like the Monarch, thanks to that extra low dispersion glass and increased coatings. So that's going to be more color fidelity and a higher resolution image. So these would be more suited to serious users that do a lot of bird watching or a lot of outdoor activities. Okay, so with all that being said, which one is the right choice for you? Well, that's difficult to say, right? So let's take a look at the P3 and P7, right? These both have that 30mm aperture at the front, making them nice, lightweight, very compact binos. So these are great for those going on a safari. You know, it's going to be the middle of the day. It's not early morning. It's not late night. You want something that's just well priced, good optical performance, good bino overall. That's nice and compact. This is the go-to. If you then want to go into something a bit higher magnification, you can get the 10 by 42 P3, and this is an all-rounder, really good multi-purpose bino to keep with you most times in the car when you're traveling and you want to spot something. Works great, or if you're out in the field most of the time, it's going to work like a charm. Then of course, top tier performance, you're going to have to go for the Monarch 5. Once again, this is for serious bird watchers or avid outdoor enthusiasts. It's just going to give you a whole next level of what you're used to. So that's basically it. As I mentioned, it's not as easy as that. We need to have a bit of a discussion and determine what you're going to be using it for before we can recommend the right bino for that specific use case. So if you're ever unsure, you're more than welcome to contact us, Futurama, on 021 851 3284 and speak to one of our specialists. We'll be more than happy to assist. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys again. Just one last thing before I let you guys go. keep a lookout on the comment section down below. We'll have a link to our Nikon binos, the full range on our website, including prices, options in terms of not only the Prostaffs and the Monarchs, but also the Aculons, etc., that you can have a look at. And as I mentioned, you're more than welcome to contact us to discuss them in more detail. Until next time, that's been me, and I'll see you guys again.